What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. My name is Jeff. Now, this is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into our review? Today, we're talking about the Benromach Cask Strength Batch 4. Stick around. So it's Benromach today. This is the second review I've done of a Benromach on this channel. We've got Batch 4 of their Cask Strength series. This is a 2020 release, came out last year, and generally speaking, I'd say this one's been pretty well received. For those of you who don't know Benromach is a very confused Speyside distillery that seems to think it's in Campbelltown. It's famous for having a very rugged, unpretty flavor profile that honestly does not fit in with the rest of its Speyside counterparts. Interestingly, the distillery is owned by Gordon and MacPhail, who are famous for their IBs, or independent bottles. I'll be honest, I haven't always been in love with this brand. I didn't used to buy very much Benromach. I'd come back to it maybe once in a while, but I have a friend who's been into Benromach for a very long time, and most of my experience with this distillery is actually through him. I've always liked the flavors in Benromach. Benromach has fantastic flavors, but I used to find a lot of their whiskeys to be somewhat abrasive. And that was always kind of disappointing to me because you got peat in there, you got sherry in there, you even have a little bit of funk. I mean, there's all these elements that I should be enjoying, but I always found a certain harshness to it. Or maybe not harshness, but yeah, just an abrasive quality, a punchiness that always took me out of it. Luckily, that is no longer the case. In the last few times I've come back to Benromach, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Most recently, I had the 12-year-old Cask Strength. I'll link it up there, but that was a beautiful whiskey. Really took me by surprise. I think I scored that one like 91 or 92. So yeah, just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And after having that one, I was really keen to jump into this one. The one we've got today is 11 years old. It's been matured in a combination of bourbon and sherry barrels, both of which were first fill. As I mentioned, this is a 2020 release, batch 4 of their Cask Strength. Now, this is the first of their Cask Strength series to come out with our fancy new packaging here. Our older bottles look like this. Now, this is a release that's traditionally done very well with reviewers, and as I mentioned, our batch 4 has been pretty well received, but not as well received as those previous batches. Now, I don't know if that's due to a dip in quality, or if people are just spooked by the new packaging, which is entirely possible. This is the whiskey world after all. Old things good, new things bad. Which is funny because I seem to like Benromach more after the rebranding, but I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm the weird one. Anyway, it's been a while since I had their Cask Strength. I think the last one I had was either batch 1, maybe batch 2. I definitely didn't have batch 3, so it has been a minute. It should be an interesting one to come back to. So, with all that said, why don't we hop into a review of this one, see what it's all about, and in the meantime, if you can kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. So we do have some good specs here. Our whiskey comes in at a hefty 57.2% ABV. It's going to be non-chill filtered, and our color here is natural, which of course is always good to see. So we've got a nice natural color to our whiskey for our presentation. This is definitely a very modern look. This simple, big, bold, red and white, blocky look definitely isn't for everyone. There's a lot of people out there who don't like it. Personally, I'm okay with it, but I don't love it. I'll give this a presentation score of 3.5 out of 5. We've got some great info on this bottle. We've got year of distillation, year of bottling, of course, non-chill filtered, natural color. It says it's derived from 29 different casks. It says all of those casks were first fill. We have our vintage here. We have tasting notes. So it's way more info than they needed to share, and that's appreciated. Let's try our nose. Unmistakably Benromach. We have big leather, sherry, shoe polish, earth, toffee, berry jam, grapes, sweet tobacco, brown sugar, caramel, raisins, milk chocolate, cinnamon. Complex. Let's try the palate. Big and full. Kind of a straight line from the nose. This is spicy. So like red chili flakes, cracked black pepper, and maybe like a rub, like a meat rub on a slab of pork. We also have sherry, leather, caramel, brown sugar, raisins, tobacco, milk chocolate, blackberry jam. Now our finish. fruity. So candied apple, there's red meat, vanilla, spices again, so like cracked pepper, red chili flakes, smoked paprika. We have rum raisin in here. There's some wet tobacco and more of that berry jam. It's a long finish, mostly lingering on those fruits and those berries. So I like this one. It's big, it's unapologetic. We've got some really great intensity in here, and in some ways it's very much your classic Benromach profile, but in other ways I do see a little bit of an evolution of the house style. As I mentioned, Benromach is not a brand that I've historically done too well with, but I have gotten along a lot better with the last few releases that I tried. Those were after the rebranding. And yeah, I do notice some slight changes, but that's not a bad thing. In fact, I kind of like the direction the brand seems to be going in. The last few Benromachs I've noticed the profile's gotten a little bit more rounded. It's kept all the intensity from those previous releases, but yeah, it's just a little bit calmer. It's not quite as wild. It's almost a little bit easier. And I say almost easier because I really don't want to call this an easy whiskey. It's like 5% easier and still 95% rugged, leathery, chewy, meaty, smoky cowboy stuff. So it's an uncompromised Benromach. It's just slightly more accessible. And I like it better for it. This is the most Moorish of these Cask Strength batches that I've had to date. It's slightly more accessible, but still very far off from being like a commercial style whiskey. We've got some great flavors in here as well. It's still as close to a Campbelltown profile as we're ever going to get from Speyside. We've got our peat, we've got our big sherry, we've got a little bit of funk in there, we've got that drying leather, our balance, our intensity, all these flavors, everything comes together really nicely. I suppose my favorite element in here is those spices though. Cracked black pepper, chili flakes, smoky barbecue rub, smoked paprika, cinnamon. Like there's a lot of really cool spicy notes to dig into here. And the great thing is the intensity of this whiskey, you're not trying to coax out these flavors. They're already right there, they're punchy, they're in your face. So this is not a subtle whiskey. We also have a very rich layer of sherry in here, lots of sweetness and red fruits. I like the candied apple, I like the berry jam in this. Yeah, absolutely brimming with flavor, but still rugged as hell. That being said, I do like that they kind of sanded down some of the rougher edges in this. So I'm really impressed with this stuff. We got lots of great elements in here. We got sherry, leather, spices, we got some peat in here. Of course, our peat, absolutely nothing to do with Islay whiskeys. The closest comparison would be a Campbelltown whiskey, but ultimately, this is very much its own thing. So yeah, distinctive stuff. Great reachability on this one too. This is a bottle that's probably not going to last me too long. I keep coming back to it, and you know, that didn't used to be the case with those older Benromachs. I think I had batch 1. It just sat on my shelf for months and months and months and months. I basically never reached for the stuff. I'm sure batch 1 is legendary for a bunch of you out there, but what can I say? I like this better. I'm going to score this a 90. It's dirty, it's powerful, it's rugged. It's basically everything you're signing up for when you buy a Benromach. I'm honestly starting to wonder if I slept on this distillery for too long. Like, have they only recently gotten this good, or has it been like this for a while? Anyway, yeah, if you like your whiskeys dirty, rugged, fruity, leathery, you're gonna love this stuff. Now, I know cowboys are supposed to be drinking bourbon, but I think they should consider switching over to this stuff. Definitely getting a cowboy vibe from this, kind of like Springbank. And yeah, I mean, that Springbank comparison, it was inevitable. You guys must have known it was coming. If you're anything like me and you like Springbank, but you're having difficulty finding it, or if you can find it, but it's massively overpriced like it is in most markets these days, which is very frustrating, by the way, this would be a great brand to turn to kind of scratch that itch. And you know what? Regardless of the Springbank comparison, it stands on its own. It's wonderful whiskey. I'm loving it, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. Excellent value here. This is one of those brands that the price to quality ratio is always pretty good. It's not a cheap whiskey, but oppositely, it's not a particularly expensive whiskey either, especially considering what you're getting. When you buy this, you're getting some great flavors, some wonderful intensity. I mean, it's undeniable quality. Honestly, with Springbank being as elusive and expensive as it is these days, this is probably a brand I'll be turning to more and more often. Yes, it is a great alternative, but it also, like I said, very much stands on its own. Wonderful stuff, not to be missed. Alright, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, hit subscribe down below, click that little bell icon, and smash the like. Now, I do want to hear from you guys. Have you tried our Benromach Cask Strength Batch 4? How would you compare it to the previous batches? Do you like it better, worse? You want to tell me why? Finally, down in the comments, let me know what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.